If you're new to my channel, I need to explain what this is. Every year I do a roundup of the best products across the different tech I've actually used, all wrapped up into one simple guide to help you figure out what's worth your money or even your attention. I'm not an AI assistant, I'm not a salesman, I'm just a bloke who's spent far too long surrounded by printers, lasers and resin fumes trying to help you make sense of what's genuinely good and what's just good marketing. You know, I like to cover the practical stuff that actually matters, not just the raw specs. And to prove I'm upfront and honest with you, I'll say it plainly. I am doing this for selfish reasons. I want your trust. I want you, like thousands of others who already have, to subscribe because you know I'm talking straight with you. I don't do deep dive jargon, I don't do corporate cheerleading. This video isn't sponsored by any particular brand, although you'll probably think it is in a minute. I just want to show you what the machines are and let you decide what's best for you. And hey, if you do decide to buy one, ideally use my affiliate link before you do, because that's how I earn a living. And with that said, if you're watching this because you're thinking about getting a laser, let me save you some time. Just get an xTool. Hi, I'm Ross and this is Fohammer Videos. So yeah, that's a straight shot up front, but this isn't just me saying it. Literally every laser review I've done has been flooded with commenters telling me that after seeing the machine I'm reviewing, we should just get an xTool of equivalent nature. And when I see my videos flooded with comments on other technologies, I'm talking printing, it's normally due to an inflammatory political bugbear within that particular community, such as an FDM brand locking down machines to use their own slicer, or a resin brand enforcing the use of only their expensive resins. Or, and I've never reviewed any of these, Nintendo jacking up prices of everything while still claiming they're targeting a younger audience. Arseholes. And the same thing with all these overly passionate claims rings true in the just get an xTool statement that I see on so many of my videos. They're right. Alright, let me explain. So to do this properly as a buying guide, if you're here, you're probably looking at getting a new laser, something for marking, engraving, maybe even cutting. So let's cover the basics first. There really are just two initial types. You've got galvo lasers where the light source stays fixed while mirrors rapidly steer the beam across the surface of what you're engraving. They're insanely fast and perfect for engraving or marking small areas, but the workspace is limited, and when you try cutting, the further you get away from the center of that laser light, the more angled your edges become. Then there are gantry lasers, where the laser head itself moves across X and Y rails. The beam always points straight down, giving you clean, accurate cuts. It's just slower since the whole head has to move. But the choice is simple. If you want speed and fine engraving, go galvo. If you want clean cuts and versatility, go gantry. Personally, I think galvos have a harder limit because they can't do straight cuts. Gantries can do everything a galvo can, just slower. But if your focus is purely on marking and engraving or small items and you don't need 90-degree cuts, get a galvo. But then you need to decide on the type of laser. There are loads of variations out there, but for this video, we'll stick with what's available to the typical home user: diode, infrared, and the new hotness, ultraviolet. Diode lasers are the most common, great for organic materials like wood, leather, card, and some plastics, but they can't mark metals or anything shiny or transparent. That's where infrared comes in. IR lasers can mark metals and some plastics that diodes can't, but they struggle more with wood and organics. But they're also more dangerous. Since the beam is invisible, you won't see it, but it can still blind you instantly. So, like all lasers, proper safety gear, especially rated eyewear, isn't optional. I'll come back to this in a minute. Then there's the ultraviolet UV laser, the new kid on the block. UV can mark almost anything: metals, plastics, glass, even ceramics. It's insanely versatile, which is why more and more brands are jumping on the UV bandwagon. From my own hands-on testing, if your focus is marking the widest variety of materials, UV is probably the direction I'd go. if you can afford it right now. And it can even do things like engrave the inside of clear surfaces like glass or crystal, things other lasers simply can't do. But it's not perfect, because while UV can mark almost anything with ridiculous precision, deeper engravings or embossed effects are slower, and this wavelength just doesn't have the penetration power for deep cuts like diode or infrared, and that's why you'll almost always see UV lasers built on galvo systems. And finally, you've got to decide on power, but it's pretty simple. The higher the wattage, the more powerful the laser, and that usually means faster engraving or cutting. And if you're mainly cutting, higher wattage machines can handle thicker materials too. The only trade-off is that more power often means a slightly wider beam at the focal point. We are talking about microns here though, not millimeters, so it is barely noticeable. In short, lower wattage gives you a slower but slightly finer detail, whilst higher wattage gets the job done faster with a touch less sharpness. But I think in most cases you probably wouldn't notice it unless you're like engraving on matchsticks. Anyway, so all of that matters up front, because if you came into this video expecting to find the ultimate laser on the market, as the title may have cheekily implied, you now know there's really no such thing. Best depends entirely on you, your budget, your goals, and what you actually want to make. I mean, I think there is a best, but we'll get to that. The best is not affordable for most people. Anyway, trying to get an everything laser machine will probably just result in you overspending on features you'll simply never use beyond the one try of, ooh, that was cool. But what isn't subjective though is safety, and I'm not going deep into it here, but the short version is this. Lasers atomize materials, which means they can release harmful fumes, and the light itself is a serious risk to your eyesight and to anybody nearby, including pets. Now, I've also been told more than once that the safety glasses bundled with cheaper machines often aren't genuinely rated for protection. So do yourself a favor and check out my laser safety video before you even consider buying anything. Right then, time for some prime meat of the video. Everything I'm about to say comes with the full respect of the existing laser community, a group I'm still new to but who've been incredibly welcoming. And I say that because what I want to address is there is a split. Now thankfully it's not the kind of messy divide we've seen in the FDM or resin printer worlds where people start frothing at each other over brand loyalty, but like Middle Earth, the laser world has changed. And it seems that that change has a name, and it's xTool. You see, this split or divide or grouping is the same one I've seen play out in every maker community. On one side, you've got the veterans, the people who've earned their stripes, the tinkerers who've spent years refining their setups, bleeding, sweating, sometimes even soldering their way towards that one perfect result. Because the classic approach to lasering is a lot of trial and error. And on the other, you've got people like me, who just want results without needing a crash course in laser physics and 10 ruined test cuts just to get there. It happened in FDM printing when Bamboo Lab made plug-and-play printers mainstream. It's happening now in resin printing, with Hagiers doing their own version of accessibility. And this story isn't just in the maker space, it's as old as time. It's the same thing that happened when digital cameras replaced darkroom purists, or when cars got electric starters and everyone stopped hand cranking their engines. The majority of people, all of us, will always pay more for convenience. If we didn't, we'd all still be riding the bus. And this is the exact reason why so many people are saying, just get an xTool. Because when you look at lasers, just like 3D printers, a similar spec machine can give you the same results. A 10-watt diode cuts like a 10-watt diode. A 40-watt IR engraves like a 40-watt IR. The real difference isn't the hardware. Okay, it is a bit in terms of build and features, but mostly it's the software, and that's why there are two camps. Kind of three. Or seven. Look, most lasers will run on Lightburn, powerful but old school. It's not visual, it's functional, but I'd compare it to using Microsoft Word on Windows 98. It's all menus and text boxes, and yeah, you can tweak hundreds of parameters and with enough trial and error, get incredible results. But then there's xTool Creative Space, visual, goal-driven, and built for normal humans. The interface literally walks you through the process from left to right, top to bottom, backed up by a ton of brand-created user guides. I'd liken it to the difference between a digital SLR camera and a phone camera. Yeah, the DSLR gives you full control, like Lightburn, but the phone camera, you can just pick portrait, panorama, time-lapse, and the software makes it look great. That's what the xTool does. It starts with what do you want to achieve, and then it walks you through the process to get there. Lightburn is more, here's a load of settings, play about with them until the guide's online and your tinkering delivers the result you hoped for in the first place. One of them is professional precision, the other is just f***ing do it. But considering all the xTool machines work with Lightburn anyway, unlike the issues we have in the printer space where Bamboo is locked down and Haygears is locked down, with xTool you can have your cake and eat it too. Now the third camp is where literally every other laser I've tested sits, the brand's OEM software, and every single one of these I've used ranges from embarrassingly bad to the point of hardly working to I guess it'll do, but I'd rather just stick with Lightburn, thanks. And unless I've missed something, and please guys, tell me if I have, because I'm still new here, nothing even comes close to how user-friendly xTool software is. Okay, maybe one, but it's not even a laser. And whilst I haven't tested every laser on the market, I have downloaded softwares for lasers that I don't even own just to check. And you can and probably should do that test yourself, especially if you're new in this space. If the interface and workflow between you and the result you want actually matter to you before you buy any machine, then download the software, have a play, and see how intuitive it isn't. And yeah, you can even trial Lightburn for a limited time too. I'll come back to this later, but try it. Anyway, I think the thing is, for the seasoned laser user who understands Lightburn and is used to the process of test, deliver, there is some value in these cheaper OEM machines. But for anyone new to lasers, isn't the time you'll save learning worth more to you than the expense of a far easier to learn and operate product? Because I had meaningful results within an hour of unboxing my F1 Ultra, and I performed more jobs on that in the same time that it's taken me to get most other laser machines working. So in that vein, let's have a look at a few of these machines and recap my reviews. And if you want more information, I recommend checking out these videos. My first laser was the LumiTool F28, and honestly, it's a miracle I still have functioning eyes. They sent me an unshielded, high-powered laser with zero safety consideration, not even a heads up, to somebody they knew was a complete and total beginner. Now, it wasn't just dangerous because it was powerful, it was dangerous because they clearly just didn't care. No safety certifications and no meaningful guides, no software support, and their software is literally an Android app running inside a janky Chinese Android emulator that I couldn't even properly read. And the Lightburn setup guide needs drivers you can't actually download without contacting the brand. Why isn't this on the website? That wasn't a product, it was a warning. Now by comparison, you've got the xTool F1 with its 10-watt diode and 2-watt IR laser. Using one then the other would feel like stepping out of a shed fire into a clean room. But then, one of the ones I've got to give praise to is the Creality Falcon A1 Pro. Now this is easily one of the least awful laser engravers I've used that isn't from xTool. It is a fully enclosed gantry laser with a 20-watt diode, solid build, and even supports an optional 2-watt infrared module. Now I was told that came included, but apparently that was more of the creative interpretation of the word standard from the brand. But yeah, you've got to buy this. It's even got a motorized Z-axis for the laser head to automatically raise to the proper height to engrave materials. Now the software is basic but usable, and the partly visual material library does actually help for beginners to find some starter settings. Honestly, this is the only laser where there's no direct xTool equivalent, not at this price anyway. The closest match is the xTool M1 Ultra, but that lacks the versatility of being able to include an IR laser. It's also a lot more expensive, but personally, I think the expense is easily worth it. But yeah, at its price, the Falcon A1 Pro is a decent machine, and it possibly is the best beginner laser for the money. And I think the weirdest thing I've discovered on this journey is, well, I've covered Creality for a few years now, they might actually be better at lasers than 3D printers. Interesting. Anyway, Then there's the Bambu H2, which technically isn't even a laser machine, but it is what pulled me into this rabbit hole. Bambu added a laser option to their H2 printers, and while I wouldn't buy it for that feature alone, it is genuinely impressive. Bambu's hardware quality speaks for itself, and their software honestly is the only one that even comes close to xTool's. So much so that if they ever did release a dedicated laser engraver, not a printer, just a laser, xTool might finally have real competition. But for now, that laser lives only on the H2 range because they didn't bring it to the smaller P2 for some reason. Now, another one I did enjoy was the Acma P3. This sits in a similar category to the Falcon A1 Pro. Big, powerful, and surprisingly flexible. It offers a decent work area of 400 by 390mm and a range of laser options, 24 watt, 48 watt, or even a 2-in-1 diode and IR combo. That's some decent versatility. Build-wise, it is a mixed bag. The acrylic lid feels cheap, the folded sheet metal is functional but a bit rough, and some port placements are just daft, like the SD card slot being inside the machine where soot and other things go. Software though, it's absolute rubbish. It's slow, clunky. Look, you're going to end up using Lightburn exclusively, trust me. And then moving on, I had the Auteur R2, which I've seen a lot of people say is really good and Auteur are stepping up as a brand, but to me this proves you really do get what you pay for. Now it looks nice enough, it's professional, but the moment you try swapping laser heads or even adjusting the height of the laser head, it feels like you're fighting. The cabling limits your range of motion, the homing is inconsistent, and for a machine designed for cutting, it doesn't even come with a honeycomb bed or even the option of buying one anywhere. It's just got some cheap slats that slide around mid-use, and once again, it's Lightburn or nothing. Now, let's talk about a brand that I feel is almost sabotaging themselves with bad marketing or bad brand naming: Creality. The thing is, Western audiences tend to tune out when they see the kind of over-the-top mistranslated advertising we usually associate with cheap import gadgets on the likes of AliExpress or Temu. And with a name like Creality, which is we create, but they thought it was a good idea to take the E off, and then you've got this purple toy-looking galvo laser, this thing could be glazed over faster than an adult star's thumbnail. But here's the twist, it's actually good. The phone app is weak to the point of unusable, but the desktop software is solid, kinda like Creality's. It's well organized and packaged with proper presets. In fact, it is one of the closer xTool competitors on the market. The problem is that for the same money, you can just get an xTool F1, which is pretty much the same hardware, better built, better supported, and doesn't look like it should light up and sing when you turn it on. So the next one is a machine that I haven't actually put the review out yet because that's still being edited alongside this one, so subscribe to see the full review coming soon. The Commarker Omni X, this is my first UV laser, and first impressions were excellent. It looks the part, solid, professional, heavy, but build it and reality sets in fast. The machining tolerance of the sheet metal it's made from are sloppy, the user guide is vague, cables hang loose, and the work light you install looks like it came from a discount store. But still, it works, and being UV, it's wonderfully versatile. You are going to rely on Lightburn for most of it because their software's trash, but if you want to engrave inside glass or crystal, you are stuck using their own app, which feels about 10 years behind the hardware. It's poorly translated, it's got your usual we made it but bare minimum kind of vibe. Again, try this stuff and see what I mean. At this price point, like, it does the thing, but if you're spending this kind of money, look, I'm gonna wait to see what xTool offer, because if that comes in at like 1 or maybe even 2k higher, the smoother experience will probably justify it. If you're looking at spending $4 on a machine, then clearly you've got the money to spend on this, so pumping another 2 into it in order to get a much better, more versatile product probably isn't a big ask. But then finally, another product that you haven't yet seen on my channel is the xLaserLab E3. Yeah, I've got one, it's not out yet. The thing is, I've refused to review it. I've gone back to the brand and said, look, the unit I've received is just far too prototype-like for me to treat seriously, and the same with the software. I don't do the whole, look at this shiny thing, please buy it and use my affiliate links nonsense, and right now that's very much what I have. In many ways, this is similar to the Omni X, except for the fact that it's smaller. It's around the same price, but it is more feature rich, which I've got to be honest is promising. The problem for me, and I find this interesting, it's actually using near identical software to the Omni X, despite both brands claiming their software is unique and developed by themselves. But the point is, I can't review this yet. I'm not putting it down, I'm actually cautiously optimistic about it, but until I have a nearer production ready model and they're closer to delivering on the user guides and software guides that they've promised me, which they've inferred should come at the end of November 2025, just after the campaign ends, then this one's staying off the channel. Whether they follow through or ghost me after the Kickstarter, well, we'll see. But that's nearly everything I've touched this year, and this brings me back to xTool, because let's be honest, they're the one that everyone's comparing every other machine to anyway. If you're starting out and you just want cutting, I'd say get an M1 Ultra. It's got a 300 by 300 workspace, you've got a 10 or 20 watt diode, but it's also a drag cutter, an inkjet printer, and a pen plotter. So if you want all the extras and that level of versatility, this is great if you want an easy to use one box that does a bit of everything. But if it's purely cutting, then get the S1. It's got a 608 by 385mm work area, 10, 20 or 40 watt diode heads, and there's a 2 watt IR module for metal marking. But if you're just looking to do engraving, stick with something like the xTool F1. It's got a 10 watt diode and a 2 watt IR laser built in. Small footprint, insanely fast, and it's also got a light version, and that one drops the IR laser but costs about half the price. If you don't need to engrave metal, it's just the better buy. And the other thing about xTool is these guys are so popular, they're out there, the community behind them is so big that if you do need elements like add-ons such as jigs in order to hold things in the same place on every job, then these are commonly available for these machines as a user guide made by the community because they are just that popular. And it's this type of value that goes far beyond what the brand offers, because if you get one of these and you're stuck with it, you've got a much bigger chance of finding someone who'll be able to help you out much faster than waiting for support to never respond, or respond with something so completely off the mark of what you asked, it was pointless emailing them in the first place. Now, the one I've truly had hands-on with that made me fall in love with this brand is the F1 Ultra. This one's got dual 20 watt fiber and diode lasers. It'll cut, engrave and emboss across more materials than the smaller models, and the fiber handles metals properly. The diode covers everything else, autofocus actually works, calibration stays locked, cooling's quiet, and it just runs perfectly every single time. And if you really want to spend money and you want more power and deeper engraves, that's why the F2 Ultra now exists. It's the same concept as the F1 Ultra, fiber and diode, but it's faster, stronger, with richer, more consistent color marking on metals. That's the difference. Is that worth the price jump to you? Now, xTool have promised to send me one on loan, so that review's coming as soon as it lands, assuming they actually follow through. And I guess if you really do want to know what the absolute best laser is, and that's why you clicked on this video, it's probably this one, but it is prohibitively expensive for most people, considering it costs about 4 times more than my last car. And look, I can talk about these all day and say you should buy this one, but the thing is, none of this will convince you as well as actually experiencing it so you can see the difference. So I guess ignore what I think is best if you feel compelled to do so, and go. Actually try it for yourself. Do this. Just imagine a project you want to do, engraving, cutting, embossing, whatever. Now go and download the software and build that project. Watch the videos on YouTube you need to in order to learn how to do the things that you want to do. Obviously you can't hit go without having the machine, but you can go through all the motions up to the point of clicking start. And I recommend you start with the xTool Creative Space software because it is the easier one, and that'll give you you a baseline to understand everything else from. But then go, try and do the same thing anywhere else. And when you hit the point where you want to throw your computer out the window, that's when you'll realize the difference and decide whether it's worth paying for. And hopefully you'll come back here and comment, I get it now. And I don't want to be so arrogant when I say that. I can hear how I sound. And if you don't hit that point, then cool, buy something cheaper. But come back here when the hardware frustrates you. I'm sorry, I had to. Anyway, look, before anyone starts crying, this is xTool sponsored. Again, it's not. Yes, I earn commissions. I earn commissions on all the lasers here I've mentioned. And xTool actually pays a lower rate than any other brand I've worked with. There's no secret deals, no xTool bonuses, no backhanded them saying you can only say nice things nonsense, because I'd refuse those reviews. So when I sit here and say, just get an xTool, it's because I want you to come back here having had a great experience with your new laser machine, and I want you to tell people in the comments, yeah, he was right, because honestly, I need that more than the sales commission payments. I'm married, so this channel is the only place in my life where I can actually feel any semblance of validation. And look, I genuinely take no pleasure in putting other brands down. I'm frustrated by it because I'm mucking about with these other machines trying to figure out how to do stuff that I can do on my xTool in a couple of clicks of a button. And every time I do one of those reviews, I'm sat here going, why am I wasting my time? I just want to be playing with my cool laser and actually getting projects done. I'm doing this because I'm hoping it helps you. And I hope you can see, look, there are some clear gaps in the market that even the mighty xTool haven't filled yet, and those gaps are usually at the lower cost or smaller end of things. But again, like I said at the start, I'm new to this. This is my first year doing a proper laser buying guide and a full roundup of my reviews. Next year, I expect to have dozens more machines in here to compare as the channel grows in this space. Probably enough to split into 2 videos just to cover the different tech types properly. And if you've got a recommendation, you think I've missed something, or a brand you feel I really should try, or if you think I'm flat out wrong, please tell me, because I want to be respectful but real about every product I touch. I don't want any of these brands to fail, but just like in the FDM and resin space, when there's a clear outlier, that should be a wake-up call. Please, brands, stop pumping out flashy junk and actually learn why the leaders are leading. Then deliver more of that. Because honestly, a cheaper machine that's easier to use will always be a powerful one that's a nightmare to operate. It'd be like car brands bragging about bigger horsepower whilst having shit brakes. Yeah, it's technically impressive, but you'll end up crashing headfirst into a wall. Anyway, I've talked far too long in this video, but I just wanted to convey the passion I feel about a new technology, which is something that's starting to grow stagnant in the printer space. So in lieu of my usual outro, I'm just going to say thank you for watching. If this video was helpful, please use my affiliate links in the description before making any purchase. Huge thanks goes to our channel members who are on screen now. Please consider joining them. And until next time, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. I love you. Fohammer out.